25th, 2025, the Caribbean. A cartel smuggling run that should have ended with millions on U.S. streets instead ended in flames. The guided missile destroyer USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class warship built for warfare, turned its sights on a ghost boat drifting through a notorious narco funnel. What looked like just another fishing vessel was carrying 860 pounds of pure cocaine, street value $13.7 million. One wrong move, and it could have slipped north into Miami or New York, but the cartel crew didn't stand a chance. The Gravely had backup. Coast Guard Law Enforcement Detachment 401, the Navy's embedded crime-fighting unit, prime for boarding and interdiction. Their mission is simple. Every suspicious hull becomes a crime scene. Every hidden compartment gets cracked open.
President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice.
At dawn, radar locked on the target. No flag. AIS signal. Response to hails. Red flags everywhere. Orders snapped across the deck. Intercept immediately. Fast-moving RHIBS cut across calm waters. M4 carbines loaded. Body cams rolling. The smugglers froze when the Navy closed in. No resistance. No attempt to flee. And that silence told the story. They were sitting on something big. Under canvas tarps, the boarding team found 19 bricks wrapped in burlap and heavy plastic. Not supplies, but cocaine, marked with cartel stamps, triple sealed for a U.S. delivery. Every bundle got logged, photographed, and bagged under chain of custody rules. No mistakes. On Gravely's deck, sailors stacked 19 cocaine bales like bricks, each worth hundreds of thousands on the street. The suspects, 3 men in their 30s, claiming to be fishermen, stood cuffed and silent. No excuses or explanations, cause the drugs said everything. For the cartels, this was more than a lost payday. It was humiliation. A U.S. destroyer, armed for war, just shut down one of its major shipments. That's $13.7 million, ripped straight out of their pipeline in a single. And worse, the intel, every marking, every seal, every GPS log fed directly into U.S. databases, mapping out the wider smuggling network. The Gravely's bust wasn't luck. It was a message. The U.S. isn't waiting for drugs to hit the border anymore. The Navy is hunting them at sea, and this one bust proved the point. Even out in open water, the cartel's myth of invisibility is dead. The $13 million bust wasn't a fluke, but part of a shadow war at sea that has been unfolding since the Trump administration took the gloves on. For the first time in U.S. history, cartels weren't just treated as drug traffickers. They were branded as what they are: foreign terrorist organizations, same legal tier as ISIS, same category as Al-Qaeda.
Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities.
That single designation changed the rules overnight. Suddenly, cartel safe houses, stash sites, convoys, and vessels weren't just criminal evidence. They were legitimate military targets. It gave Washington the legal firepower to unleash destroyers, Coast Guard detachments, and even special operations units without hesitation. The goal: dismantle the cartels as if they were terrorist insurgencies. And since then, the hammer has been falling. January 7th, 2025. Off the coast of Ecuador, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter James picked up a faint blip on its surveillance drones. At first, it looked like nothing, just a shadow moving inches above the water. But trained eyes knew better. It was a low-profile narco submarine, fiberglass hull painted blue to vanish on radar, carrying 8,240 pounds of cocaine. For years, these semi-subs were ghosts, slipping through nets, delivering tons of product to Central America. Not this time. A Navy helicopter swooped in. On the open door, a sniper steadied himself against rotor wash. He adjusted, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. One shot, the engine died instantly. Within minutes, Navy SEALs were rappelling onto the crippled sub, cracking open the hatch. Inside, they found the bricks of cocaine stacked tightly. But the real jackpot wasn't the drugs. It was the sat phones and smuggling maps, coordinates of safe houses, stash coves, contacts. For the cartel, it wasn't just a load lost. It was an intelligence disaster. Their billion-dollar pipeline was bleeding out in broad daylight. This is what makes the campaign terrifying for the cartels. These aren't random busts. This is systematic dismantling. Every seizure feeds intelligence into the next raid. Each sat phone becomes a map. Each GPS coordinate becomes a target, and each bust multiplies the damage, destroying not just product, but trust, routes, and infrastructure. Cartels once bragged about their narco navy, custom-built submarines, go-fast boats, and fiberglass hybrids built to evade detection. But now those vessels are hunted like prey. Drones scan river mouths, destroyers sweep lanes with radar, and Coast Guard detachments train to find every hidden compartment. The ocean used to be their playground. Now it's a kill zone. And this shadow war isn't limited to Ecuador or Mexico. The Caribbean is heating up. Washington already figured out that Maduro's Venezuela is a key smuggling hub, and it's moving hard against it. Last month, the U.S. deployed 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers to Venezuelan waters, a show of force designed to choke off shipments moving through Caribbean lanes tied to Maduro's regime.
Tonight, the Trump administration is cracking down on drug cartels at sea. A source briefed on the matter tells NBC News the U.S. is planning to deploy these 3 warships near Venezuela. President Trump focusing on drugs coming to the coasts after reducing illegal border crossings to record lows.
They continue to send drugs into our country, Venezuela. Yeah, they've been very nasty.
But it didn't stop there. Washington doubled the bounty on Nicolas Maduro Moros himself, branding him not just a corrupt dictator, but a kingpin shielding traffickers. For cartels who thought they could hide behind political power, the message was brutal. Not anymore.
The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel.
The U.S. is doubling its bounty for Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, now offering $50 million for information leading to his arrest. Attorney General Pam Bondi made the announcement Thursday, calling Maduro a major narco trafficker and a threat to national security. The original reward set during Trump's first term was $15 million. Former President Biden raised it to $25 million before leaving office.
Each move ties into the same doctrine: forward interdiction. Don't just wait for drugs to hit the border. Destroy them at sea. Rip them from the cartel's hands before they reach land. That's why the Gravely bust on May 25th wasn't luck. It was the latest blow in a months-long sequence designed to grind cartel networks into dust. Think about it. In just weeks, U.S. forces had seized more than $500 million worth of cocaine at sea. They seized sat phones with direct links to cartel bosses. They pulled GPS maps that exposed safe houses. They turned cartel subs into twisted wrecks, bobbing in daylight. And every single one of those seizures turned into the next raid, a cycle of pressure cartels can't escape. Inside cartel networks, panic rippled. Bosses whispered about betrayal, and lieutenants feared their routes were compromised. Smugglers grew paranoid, convinced their own men were flipping. But the truth was simpler. They weren't being betrayed, they were being watched. From sonar scans to high-altitude drones, the U.S. had built a kill chain that never slept.
Cartels are now officially in the Pentagon's crosshairs. And it's not just the wall anymore. Trump ordered the kill shot. The days of local drug busts and random motels, they were fun, but that's Breaking Bad stuff. Trump wants to take the fight to El Chapo's front yard.
This isn't about seizures anymore. It's about strangling the system until it breaks. From Ecuador to Venezuela, from semi-subs to ghost boats, the campaign is relentless. The Gravely's $13 million bust wasn't a headline in isolation, but a one move in a systematic war, a shadow campaign designed not to disrupt, but to erase. The ocean was once the cartel's highway, but now it's turning into a graveyard. The cartels tried to adapt. They hired Colombian mercenaries to guard their coastal labs. They fitted safe houses with anti-drone jammers, mounted belt-fed guns on rooftops, and even launched swarms of kamikaze drones against approaching patrols. They thought technology and muscle could buy them breathing room, but it didn't. The raids came harder. The U.S. Navy stormed from 3 directions at once. Marines pushed in from the sea. Apache helicopters strafed positions from above. CIA-fed tunnel maps let infiltrators come up from underground. What looked like fortresses turned into kill zones in minutes. No matter the defenses, the outcome was the same. Another stronghold reduced to ash.
Especially since Venezuela has turned into a narco-terrorist state that continues to work with the FARC, continues to work with ELN from Colombia to send record amounts of cocaine from Venezuela, from Colombia, into the Mexican cartels that continue to come into the United States at record amounts. We have seized more cocaine this year than past years.
The U.S. kill chain is relentless. Nowhere to run or hide. The cartel's proud naval pipeline isn't smuggling anymore. It's bleeding out, one raid at a time. The order from Washington is clear. No sanctuary. What began as seizures at sea has exploded into a full-spectrum war. Trump's directive didn't stop at the Mexican cartels. It spread to every network tied to the cocaine pipeline, Sinaloa and CJNG in Mexico, the ELN and Gulf Clan in Colombia, and cartel-linked smuggling syndicates in Venezuela. The message is blunt. Nowhere is safe. Not in jungles, not in deserts, not even under the cover of governments.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing a tough game.
On the U.S.-Mexico border, convoys that once roared across the desert are being obliterated before they can deliver their poison. In Santa Cruz, Arizona, 12 armored vehicles from Sinaloa tried to slip through with 3 tons of fentanyl and 96 gunmen. They never made it. Apaches strafed from the sky, HIMARS rockets shattered the column, and drones sealed the kill box. In less than 6 minutes, every truck was smoking wreckage. Every fighter gone. That wasn't policing, that was annihilation. In Mexico's interior, CJNG's fortified fentanyl labs are burning. One super lab in Jalisco, armed with guards, jammers, and heavy weapons, collapsed in a single night as SEALs hit from above. Marines stormed from below, and CIA-fed tunnel maps allowed infiltration underground. The haul wasn't just drugs. Laptops, encrypted radios, shipment schedules, all ripped from cartel hands.
According to the New York Times, behind the scenes, Trump's moving all the pieces into place to pull this off. This isn't a Mexican standoff, this is an order. The CIA is already flying surveillance drones over Mexican territory, gathering intel on the battle space.
And across the Caribbean, the fight is just as brutal. Off Venezuela's coast, Navy destroyers are hammering smuggling corridors once protected by Maduro's regime. Intelligence from seized sat phones pointed to cartel-linked fuel convoys tied to Caracas. Those convoys never reached port. Colombia hasn't been spared either. Gulf Clan and ELN operatives thought their jungle river routes were untouchable. Now, SEAL-backed raids are torching jungle labs, blowing open river convoys, and seizing shipments before they hit the Caribbean. Entire villages, once shielded by narco money, now wake up to burned labs and soldiers hauling crates of cocaine away. And the strikes don't end in explosions. They hit the banks too. Treasury teams are freezing cartel assets from Panama to Dubai. When a Sinaloa stash house in Sonora was raided, ledgers and passwords opened doors to $200 million in frozen accounts worldwide. For cartels from Mexico to Colombia, the pain isn't just in blood, it's in collapsing fortunes. Governments across the region are furious. Mexico's leadership calls the raids violations of sovereignty.
Yes, but it has nothing to do with Mexican territory. It has to do with their country. It does not involve our territory.
So it would be within the United States?
Within the United States, exactly.
Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum says she rejected an offer to have U.S. troops fight drug cartels on Mexican territory.
Venezuela fumes at destroyers prowling its waters.
Es muy grande la causa que defendemos. Así que el cambio de régimen, además de ilegal, es inmoral. Y aquí no lograrán ni colonizar, ni esclavizar, ni a Venezuela, ni a América del Sur, ni a nuestra América. Y si algún día tocan a Venezuela, toda la América se levantará por nosotros, por el pueblo de Bolívar.
Colombian officials squirm under the spotlight as cartel ties are exposed. But Trump isn't blinking. At Andrews Air Force Base, he declared cartels terrorists hiding behind corruption and vowed that every sub, every convoy, every lab, and every safe house would be erased. From border deserts to Caribbean waters, from Mexican jungles to Colombian rivers, the United States is hitting harder than ever. Convoys destroyed, labs torched, accounts frozen. Cartel war rooms are turning into tombs, and yet the fight isn't over. Across Mexico, Venezuela, and Colombia, cartels are adapting heavier weapons, mercenaries, drone swarms primed for counterattacks. Every raid breeds both fear and fury. For every fortress that falls, another rises stronger. The US isn't backing down, but neither are the cartels. And the question isn't whether they'll strike back, it's when, and just how bloody that strike will be.